welcome back to the BioBlock. I'm your host. We'll edit that in later. And here's my host, Jared Kimler.
Hey, Jared Kimler here. I'm glad we could make it today. We have two special guests. They'll come in later, but they're just over now. They're enjoying some nice coffee on the couch.
But you don't really give a fuck about that because today it's our BioBlock 20th anniversary. We're glad to be here. We got a couple of guests on the phone.
Right now we're down in the studio. We're enjoying a bunch of cakes. Our assistant Martha, she makes great tea cake. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's too bad she fell under the power more, so we'll be visiting her soon. Today we're here to talk about Protista.
They're a kingdom. They're a kingdom of animals. They're called the Protists. And we just want to stop a second before we get into this, and we just want to let you guys know that we're not going to say words like anymore.
No, that's a bad word. You're not going to see Nesvit. We're not going to show that this time because no one wants to see that.
We're also not going to show. We're not going to show pictures of things like this. Yeah, that's not gonna.
That's gross.
That's not gonna fly. So it's clean, it's fresh, it's BioBlock.
We're reinventing ourselves for probably the dozenth time. I mean, the cast keeps changing. That means we had to keep changing.
Bow. All right, so let's get started. Protists. They're a kingdom of organisms. What? They're a kingdom of organisms. Daniel Nesvit had to come today because his dad saw our last video on YouTube.
We are legally obligated to spend at least 20 minutes with Nesvit every Wednesday. It's terrible, but I'd just like to point. It's all right. We're gonna cut that part out.
It's not true. They're a kingdom of organisms that don't really fit anywhere else. They're sort of like a grab bag group.
It's kind of like my ex-wife in a way, but more about that later.
All right, a few things about the Protista. They don't have much in common because, like I said earlier, they're just a random grab bag of the guys that don't really fit anywhere else.
He's just ex-wife.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nesvit. What they do have in common is simplicity. Most of them are unicellular. Or if they're multicellular, they don't have specialization. They live in colonies. There's a dude over there. They live in like a big colony. Oh, here's Nesvit with some riveting information that's necessary for this project.
Yes, thank you.
I love it.
Jared.
Thanks for coming. Great. Have a nice
Yeah,
day. Due to the relatively high costs of censoring, I'll refrain from saying what I usually say to Nesvit.
So straight from ComSem, it's Nesvit, and by the way, he's wearing pants all the way up his knees.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Jared. One of the more interesting slime molds, which is part of the kingdom, is the Fuligo septica. Now, this is also more commonly known as dog vomit because, as you can see, it looks like dog vomit. Dog vomit slime mold is it's a colony of single-celled eukaryotic organisms that they move in an ambiode-like fashion as they search for nutrients to gain sustenance to ensure their survival. It's a pretty interesting name for a pretty interesting slime mold. And now I'm going to turn the mic back over to your host, Jared Kimler. Thank you very much for having me on the program. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. And moving along, we got our next special type of protist. That would be Everett's research on his. Maybe he's doing all the research for it. So please try to pay attention. It might get boring.
All right, guys. Just thought I'd let you know, I'm an absolute expert on amoebas. Not to creep you out or anything, but please excuse me for a second.
Nesvit, stop that, please.
All right, sorry. And we're back. So the amoeba is a type of single-celled eukaryotic organism. like most protists. And what it does is it's got a pseudopod, and you know it's a it's got a large pseudopod or like little foot. That's what it stands for. In order to help it move, and this movement is supposed to be animal-like. But all right, get that out of my face, please. All right. All right, this is totally bad. I'm not a very good BS. So the amoeba obtains its food through a process known as endocytosis, where it engulfs the food, and this food and the nutrients are actually digested in a contractile vacuole, and this is very very distinct trait of the amoeba, which is one of the most renowned protists. You think of amoebas? Come on, guys. And all right. So another distinct characteristic of the amoeba is that they reproduce asexually through mitosis and cytokinesis, not to be confused with binary fission, which occurs through prokaryotes and other bacteria.
Great. Yeah, much better than what Nesbitt usually has to say. Thanks. Bye. All right, we're going to talk about algae, which happen to fall underneath the protist kingdom. Algae are pretty interesting because they have little chloroplasts that aren't quite chloroplasts. They're called cyanelles. These cyanelles allow them to produce their own energy. Because they produce their own energy because they're autotrophs. So one little guy is the glaucocytus, and it has a really tiny
Flagella.
which is like a little thing,
Whip-like structure.
a little thing that flops.
Whip-like structure. Flops in the wind.
It's something that just sort of, something that just flops around. Just flops, and it helps him. It helps the little guy push himself around, and it also has a cellulose wall. He's a eukaryotic cell, so it's sort of weird to think of what this thing could be because it has some similar things to plants. It has some similar things to maybe a bacteria. So that's why it's in this protist category. All right, as for the classification and switching around the different types of classifications for these, you don't really mess with the classifications of protists because they're so strange. They already have these 5 typical phyla. I would read you off the phyla, they're right here, but honestly, what would that be doing for you?
Hi, I just came back from my conference in Framingham. Very lovely place, great food. Before we go, I just want to talk about boundaries, lines, limits. And, here at BioBlock, we're all about crossing the line and breaking the rules, so.
All right, this is Jared Kindler signing off, and we got Everett and Dan here. They're gonna, I just called him Dan. We got Everett and Nesbitt here, and they're gonna get ready to say goodbye. And I just want to say, if you're not always on the bullseye, that doesn't mean you're not always. Dan?
That was a very inspirational message, Jared. I just would like to say that. Apparently, I'm not coming back, and although I'm disappointed, I can't say I'm surprised from the lack of respect
it.
I've gotten
Thanks for
here. It's
coming.
been astounding. I'm sure. Bye. Wow.